black and brown teenagers took out a full-page ad on in the New York Times calling for their execution for crimes they did not commit. They were innocent.
So there has been a lot of conversation about Donald Trump and the ad that he took out in several newspapers back in the day after there's about 30 kids wilding out in Central Park, attacking people, robbing people, and they left a jogger for dead. And so I'm going to do everybody a favor and just read the ad to you guys, because I'm sure many people who are talking about it have never actually read it. So this is what it looks like. A lot of people have not actually read it. And even some of the photos that they post of this are really blurry and you can't even read it. Like Jake Tapper did that. So I actually just typed the whole thing up. Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police. What has happened to our city over the past 10 years? What has happened to law and order, to the neighborhood cop we all trusted to safeguard our homes and families, the cop who had the power under the law to help us in times of danger, keep us safe from those who would prey on innocent lives to fulfill some distorted inner need? What has happened to the respect for authority, the fear of retribution by the courts, society, and the police for those who break the law, who wantonly trespass on the rights of others? What has happened is the complete breakdown of life as we know it. Many New York families, white, black, Hispanic, and Asian, have had to give up the pleasure of a leisurely stroll in the park at dusk, the Saturday visit to the playground with their families, the bike ride at dawn, or just sitting on their stoops, giving them up as hostages to a world ruled by the law of the streets, as roving bands of wild criminals roam our neighborhoods, dispensing their own vicious brand of twisted hatred on whomever they encounter. At what point did we cross the line from a fine and noble pursuit of genuine civil liberties to the reckless and dangerously permissive atmosphere which allows criminals at every age to beat in our word a helpless woman and then laugh at her family's anguish? And why do they laugh? They laugh because they know that soon, very soon, they will be returned to the streets to R and maim and kill once again, and yet face no great personal risk to themselves. Mayor Koch has stated that hate and rancor should be removed from our hearts. I do not think so. I want to hate these muggers and murderers. They should be forced to suffer, and when they kill, they should be executed for their crimes. They must serve as examples so that others will think long and hard before committing a crime or an act of violence. Yes, Mayor Koch, I want to hate these murderers, and I always will. I am not looking to psychoanalyze or understand them. I am looking to punish them. If the punishment is strong, the attacks on innocent people will stop. I recently watched a newscast trying to explain the anger in these young men. I no longer want to understand their anger. I want them to understand our anger. I want them to be afraid. How can our great society tolerate the continued brutalization of its citizens by crazed misfits? Criminals must be told that their civil liberties end when an attack on our safety begins. When I was young, I sat in a diner with my father and witnessed two young bullies cursing and threatening a very frightened waitress. Two cops rushed in, lifted up the thugs, and threw them out the door, warning them never to cause trouble again. I miss the feeling of security New York's finest once gave to the citizens of this city. Let our politicians give back our police department's power to keep us safe. Unshackle them from the constant chant of police brutality which every petty criminal hurls immediately at an officer who has just risked his or her life to save another's. We must cease our continuous pandering to the criminal population of this city. Give New York back to the citizens who have earned the right to be New Yorkers. Send a message loud and clear to those who would murder our citizens and terrorize New York. Bring back the death penalty and bring back our police. But Donald Trump put that out in the papers about 2 weeks after the attacks in Central Park. It was more than just a jogger who was attacked. There was a homeless man who was attacked. There was a teacher and Marine who was attacked. They were going around robbing and attacking people. And the police didn't even know about the jogger at first. They started collecting kids, and then kids just started snitching on each other. One kid said, "I'm not the murderer. That was my friend. I can tell you where they live." And that was one of the Central Park Five that was named from his friend. So there were other young men who were implicated in that crime, but the reason why it was pinned on the Central Park Five is because in their confessions, they never said, "I'm the one who, went into her." But they said things like, "Well, I didn't do that, but I just held her down. I just felt her up. I just, took my stuff out and tried to simulate that, but I didn't actually, was able to get in or get it up. Now, I'm assuming everybody knows that they did make those confessions. However, they say that they were forced to make those confessions, that they're coerced into it, and the cops violated their civil liberties and all kinds of different stuff. The courts have consistently ruled that they gave those confessions voluntarily, and people can go literally watch them online to see what they think. They're on YouTube. After they were convicted, years later, Mateus Reyes confessed to committing the essay of the jogger, and he claimed that he acted alone, and his DNA was actually the one found at the scene. There was other DNA, by the way, but as far as like actually someone being inside of her, there was a person who they knew got away, and so he was the person. And so in that situation, you would redo the trial, but they had served their sentences by then, so it was just decided to withdraw the charges. Of course, the investigators who were involved in the case say that the Central Park Five was guilty and they didn't want their charges withdrawn and they didn't want the payouts and all that stuff. But the jogger who was actually attacked, who was in a coma for a while, and they didn't know if she would wake up and what she would remember, and she didn't remember anything, but she believed that she was assaulted by more than one person, and so did the doctors who analyzed her. And there was evidence that, you know, showcased that there was more than one person who attacked her. If there is a gang R that happens to someone, the person who does it will get charged, but if other people are holding you down and other stuff, they're getting charged too. So that's what happened with the Central Park Five. Again, other children were implicated when people started confessing and naming names and stuff, but the Central Park Five was the only ones who were like, yeah, I held her down, I felt her up, I did this, I did that. Since getting out, the Central Park Five have been trying to put the pieces of their lives back together. They ended up getting that really big settlement, which the city had been fighting for a very long time, but de Blasio wanted to do that. And of course, original investigators wanted to actually fight the case again. Since then, there's been a documentary and there's been the big Netflix show, which there's a lot of fiction in there. But however you feel about the case, I just wanted everyone to actually know the context of the article. I mean, at the time, they knew that there was all these kids wilding out at the park, attacking people. And that's why he said that everyone's basically become hostage in their own city, and criminals need to go back to fearing retribution in some kind of way. Now, some people will say, well, Trump didn't name names in the article for the Central Park Five. And I mean, the context of the timing, people can just be like, that happened immediately following. So it's obviously involved in what happened. But a lot of his law and order mentality of what he wrote sounds kind of similar to stuff he's been saying, you know, people should fear retribution for doing bad things. Central Park Five announced that they are suing Donald Trump for defamation, and I don't know how much of a case that they actually have, but I don't know, in New York, anything can happen to Donald Trump. So that's the background, that's the story, and that's the article, and you guys can come to your own conclusions. This is supposed to be like big evidence that Donald Trump is some kind of a racist, but when you look at his perspective, given the evidence that was out at the time and stuff, it just isn't insane that he would come to the conclusion that he did. Anyway, if you want to see this all written up, I had this on my website, blacktnews.com. If you guys want to go watch the confession videos and make your own conclusions, the easiest way to find them is to go to this particular website. But just FYI, this website does not sugarcoat the fact that they think that they're guilty. Anyway, have a nice day.